I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet, and I'm going to say this. It's a big claim, but I'm going to make it. This EP from Benjiflow is probably the best debut project from any artist that you will hear this year. I don't think you will ever hear a first project from any artist as a debut that's better than this. So Benji is an artist that I've been quite new with. My first interaction with him was the song Jolene. I did a review of that on the Finesse Forever blog. If anyone actually feels like reading it, the link will be in description. But we all know you can't be asked to read.
What? If you can read one full page of a Harry Potter book, nigga, I'll give $750,000 to whatever charitable organization you want to. Fuck the bucket ice.
So, oh well. But he did have a really good single run last year with quite a few tracks, including Wonder Girl and Jolene this year, as well as Can't Lose from last year as well. So Benji utilizes a lot of different sounds. He kind of segues between Afro Bashment and Afro beats, but he includes so many other different sounds and melodies that you would find outside of it. And even inside of it, he comes with a lot of authentic sounds that really surround yourself in African culture, and it's great. I love it, and he's so good with it as well. So to move to the project itself in a bit more detail, one thing I generally hate is when people pack projects with a bunch of singles that have already been released that we've already heard before. In a way, I kind of think it's cheating, but when the songs are this good and they actually fit with the project, I don't mind as much. And in terms of Benergy, this is exactly what happens. One thing that he does well in terms of a debut project that a lot of artists don't do in a debut project is that he has a clear concept. It's the idea of really wanting to introduce him and his sound to the world. It's called Benergy because he wants you to know what Benergy is and what Benji is about as a producer, as a vocalist, as a singer, and as an artist. And he very much succeeds in doing that. There are only 6 tracks on this EP, and the 3 that have been released beforehand are Deep End, Somebody, and Jolene. So I'm not really going to go into them in detail like I normally would. I'm going to go into detail on the other 3, and I think they're great. And if anything, the reasons that I like these 3 tracks are the same reason that I like the other 3 that have been previously released. So Can't Lose is a very upbeat, club-ready track, but it very much stays true to the sound that we previously heard from him and just puts that sound in a different setting for you to be able to enjoy, and I think he really does well with that. I feel like in terms of the cultural influences on this song, it leans more towards the bashment side of things, and I think he really makes it into his own and really brings his own flair to it, especially on the production side of things. I like it. I also like the idea that he doesn't put on a fake Rasta Jamaican accent just for the sake of it, because it's more of a bashment tune. I like that as well, because stay true to yourself. Stop trying to be everybody else. It's annoying and boring. In terms of Afro bashment, the Afro is definitely still there. The drums, it's very much like an African drum. I don't know exactly what drum it is. I'd love if someone who actually knows music really well can tell me exactly what set of drums he used. I don't know if he's pulled this off a random drum kit or he's pulled up the instruments like a beat kit, or he's pulled up these instruments himself, but it really sounds so authentic and so organic, and I love it, and it adds so much to the track. Vocally, his delivery is so clean in terms of how all the words are very crisp. And also, it really shows how good of a songwriter he is, because he has the idea that you can build up and then you have like a small cut in terms of how the melody of the track slightly dies down, and then it all kind of comes back up again in terms of the energy of the instrumental for when the hook comes in, which is really good as well, and it really gets you in that dancing mood. Like, even when I was listening to it for the first time, it's like it infected my legs and I was just two-stepping automatically. Like, it's ridiculous. I love it. What really helps is how well his flow is crafted to where it helps build up the intensity of the track, and in terms of the energy that Benji is bringing with his vocals, until the slow kind of cut down where the vocals cut out slightly and the drums kind of simmer down a bit, and then the hook drops in and all the instruments come together so nicely, and it really does help with the tone and how the tone shifts across this track. It's brilliant. The ad-libs underneath, they're very euphoric and it kind of sucks you into the song, which just really compels you to sing along. It really just draws you in, especially with the hook. And in terms of the vocal range as well, it's definitely within his wheelhouse. There's no points in the vocals where I feel like he's straining himself to hit certain notes, and it's not like he's trying too hard to have somewhat rap flows in there as well as just singing. He can do both at the same time. It really works well for him, and this song really highlights that. So with Broken Parts, it really functions as like an R&B ballad, and I really like that. And the sounds that he uses are really interesting. It's got some kind of 80s discos elements to kind of like the synth melody over the top, but the way he uses his voice is just brilliant. So he's kind of got these perfect harmonies that tie in really well with the beginning and the intro of the song, and then he's obviously got the kind of humming that he uses as like a bridge from the intro to the song into when his verse starts, and it's a really nice touch. In terms of the lyrics, it's very appropriate to the kind of theme of the song. It is a love ballad, and the lyrics do reflect that. He doesn't get randomly distracted halfway through the song and start talking about bad bees or whatever it might be. I feel like a lot of artists kind of have this problem where they have a song concept and they get distracted with it after the second verse. So you've got your first verse and your hook, and it very much sets out your song concept, and then your second verse, it just completely forgets what the song concept is. Benji doesn't do that, and it's good. I really like how he flips the melody after his intro. So you've got the harmonies and the humming that I talked about in the intro, and then you've got the African drum that kind of kicks back in. I want to say it's a bongo. I'm not exactly sure, because in terms of instruments, my musical knowledge isn't the greatest. That's one thing you will notice. But in terms of that, I really like how it just fills out and kind of juxtaposes the kind of 80s disco synths that he's got going on, and it's a really odd combination, but he makes it work really well. And I love how beautiful his voice is. He really expresses that in terms of his vocal range, he can go in all kind of different avenues, and he's not straining himself. And like I said in the previous track, his delivery is just crisp. More great songwriting because of how well the instrumental is built, and he wants to kind of draw attention into how great and somber the atmosphere of this instrumental can be in places. He uses a bridge as a way for you to just enjoy the instrumental, and it's great. I really like how he does that. In terms of the vocal performance, I think this is the best vocal performance on this whole tape. I feel like this song is when you really see him singing the best. Like this really shows how good his vocal range is and his vocal ability is, and how crisp his delivery can be. Moving on to the final song I'll be talking about in more detail, which is Wonder Girl. I'm gonna harp on production a lot because that's his biggest strength, and it really shows it, and I feel like it's production driven, this whole EP. But one thing that I feel a lot of producers don't quite have an importance on is layering. Sometimes, sure, having a minimalist approach to things, saying, hey, 3 layers and we're good, we've just got a bass line and a couple notes on a keyboard for a melody, sometimes that works. But having something that's a bit more sophisticated and complex can really help an artist come out of their shell a lot more and really kind of boost them. And it's kind of like Benji showing off with this one. I really like what he does with the bass line and the drums on this, and he kind of fits it all together really well, especially with how that maraca kind of just chimes in, and it's not overdone. Sometimes people love like adding claps. Like sure, a lot of R&B tracks work really well with a clap, and a maraca is one of those things that in terms of Afro bashment, Afro swing, those sort of genres, a maraca works really well. But if you overuse it, it really grinds your gears, and it's one of those things like, oh, this noise is really annoying, that noisy noise in the background. But Benji doesn't overuse the maraca, so it's just a nice little nuance that you notice in the background, and it just adds to the whole complexity of the entire instrumental. I love it. I probably said I love it 20 times, which you can tell how much I really liked this EP and enjoyed listening to it. Yet again, there's a lot of great songwriting and having bits of time to just enjoy the instrumental, and the use of that guitar on the bridge of this song, it's just sexy. Like the guitar, that little guitar melody that he uses, it just makes you marvel at it. But in terms of the lyrics, I've been saying that a lot of the lyrics are appropriate rather than saying they're great, because I feel like that's an area where I feel he could improve on. Sure, R&B singers aren't known for fancy punchlines and wordplay and that sort of thing, but I feel like he says things in the simplest way possible. Now, sure, a lot of the time that's great when it comes to R&B songs. Why are you trying to say things in the most complicated way possible? But it can be a bit more engaging if you just find synonyms for things that are just a bit cooler, if that makes sense. Just find slightly different ways of saying things that are just a bit more interesting, I guess. There are no kind of lyrics where I think, oh, that's a nice little sentiment. I don't really feel like that was there, not just with this song, but actually with all of them. But it's not poor. It's definitely not poor. They're very much appropriate and they work with the song, but they don't stand out as much. He doesn't really come across as a witty lyricist to me, but that's okay because that's not what his focus is, so you can't really mark him down too much on that. So overall, I'm going to give this a solid B. It's going to be memorable. I'm going to be bumping this EP a year or two from now. It really sets out who Benji is as an artist, and in years to come, when he has a much bigger discography, I feel like his fans are gonna go back to this project and think, wow, look at what he was doing here. He was really onto something and he was really building a sound for himself. And I think not just within his discography, but within the genres that he utilizes on this EP, he's gonna be known within them as well. And this EP is gonna be memorable within those. B grade is memorable. That's the classification for that. And by that, I mean, you're going to be bumping this in a year or two from now and you're going to really remember it. It's not going to be you'll listen to this EP when you're specifically looking through this artist's work, but it's something that really stands out. The reason why I didn't really go into kind of the B plus end of the grading is that I felt two things. One, lyrically, it doesn't pop out at you that much. I just feel like he needs to find synonyms for things that he wants to say in a way that's a bit more engaging. Just find another way to say the same thing that people think, wow, that's pretty clever, or wow, that's pretty thoughtful, because I didn't really find that in there. The second thing, this sounds really petty and really picky, but it's my grievance that I have with projects in general. I hate it when literally 50% of this EP is pre-release singles. But you can't harp it too much to the point where you bump him down to a B minus or into the C tier, because it fits with what Benji is trying to do here, which is introduce you to his sound and show you how great his sound is and what his sound is capable of. In terms of the concept of the whole thing, it's perfect. It's like you come across this EP and it's called Benergy and you notice his name is Benji and it's like, okay, it's a self-entitled thing, but you're asking, what is Benergy? And you get a definitive answer. It's these interesting Afro-bashment, Afrobeat tunes with stellar vocals and really interesting production, pulling in different instruments and kind of cultural sounds in different places and seeing what Benji can wow you with. And that's the concept, and he really delivers on that, and it's great. For a debut, this is insane. You really have to take into consideration this is a debut project, which is why I said at the beginning of this video, I don't think you're going to get a debut project this year in 2020 as good as this. You're just not. Now, you're saying, wow, you said so much good things about this. You've said it's great about 10 times and you said you love it about 20 times. Why isn't this an A tier? Well, in terms of to go into a bit more detail about grading, I'm not going to reveal too much because I want to save it for a whole video. A tier is the idea that it's going to be a classic, that it's going to be legendary, that it's going to be something that shaped a genre. And in a way, you can't really know when it's first released, or even in the first month of when it first releases, because I don't believe in instant classics. So that's the end of the review. Like, subscribe, and as per usual, debate me in the comments. Did you think that I'm praising this too much? Do you think, hey, I don't know why you love this project so much, Benji's nothing special? Even if you don't really have an eye for production as much, I find it hard to believe you can't appreciate how brilliantly all the sounds coming together. Speaking to a lot of producers that I know and talk to that are on the label Finesse Forever, that I am an editor for, they all loved it, simply because they very much respect how much of a production wizard Benji is. I hope you enjoyed it. Get down in the comments below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you guys in the next video. No long talking, let me